enterprise deployment success with data governance, really any generic governance. This is a pretty good topic for us. This is going to be an enterprise level topic, and we want to make sure that you're successful with Tableau. And so you're going to learn a little bit about me before we go into the session. My name is David Spezia. I've been with Tableau in my 3rd year now, and I've really been enjoying it. I started in Metro Detroit as a solution architect in services. Before that, I was an independent BI consultant for about 6 years. So I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. And working for Tableau and with Tableau has been one of the best experiences of my life. I have actually moved my family from Metro Detroit over to London. I did that back in September. And now I'm the lead channel FC, so pre-sales engineer in all of EMEA for our entirety of our channel. So I work with all of our technology partners like Vertica, Teradata, Alteryx, all these other wonderful partners. I work a lot with other BI consultants, right? Just teaching them the Tableau way, teaching them how to sell position Tableau, and ultimately to come in and save the day when stuff starts crashing a little bit. And I also grew up on a pig farm, and that's interesting. That's rather unique. And growing up on a pig farm for me actually was my first exposure to data. When I was 15 years old, I was using a 386 with my dad's taxes and Microsoft Excel. Right, so that's how I started with data, and here I am today. So why are we here? Why are you here? You're here because of this. We're the Google generation. When I get in a fight with my mates at a bar, and we start talking about, who won the 2000 World Cup, and I'm clearly wrong because I'm an American and I know crap all about soccer, and they're right, we don't go out in the street and fight about it anymore. We pull open our phone. I mean, you all have phones here right now. You go to Google and you type that question into a browser. We are incredibly empowered to answer our own question. So when someone tells us no, we're like, what? Why can't we get information, right? We are very empowered, and we feel very empowered. So I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison here between traditional systems and Tableau itself. And this is where the paradigm starts to change a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of what we call a producer-consumer model. And in traditional BI, we've got producers. There's a small number of producers. They create content, they create reports, and they create some complex metadata layers in order to create things that users can actually consume. So users consume things, right? What happens with consumers is they're stuck in this cycle where they define requirements in a 20-page Word doc. They go off, ask people to develop things, and when they get it, it's slightly off the mark from what they intended. So they're stuck in this loop with the producers. And the producers are basically a report factory. They're a bottleneck to this process. Though they can do really great things and they can really help, they're the experts on the tool. So what we end up seeing a lot is because consumers in these traditional BI systems do not have the ability to create their own reports. They use this wonderful little tool called Microsoft Excel. And they use Excel for self-service BI because the rest of the process is change control driven. So that causes them to have to answer questions on their own. And the only tool they have on their desktop to do that today is Microsoft Excel. So what we ultimately see is a capability gap. The producers have all the capabilities. The end users have very little capabilities. So let's compare that to Tableau. All right, we've got producers, we've got consumers, right? We still have those traditional roles in our system. In Tableau, producers utilize our Tableau desktop utility. They can create workbooks, they can create awesome dashboards, they can create interactive dashboards, and they can also create data sources. And this will be a focus of this topic is data sources, and we'll talk a little bit about workbooks as well. We also have consumers, right? Consumers can consume workbooks, consume dashboards. We also have tools in our end user consumer tool for web editing and web authoring. So we've pushed a lot more capabilities there. But there's also a gap between producers and consumers, and this is where a lot of BI tools kind of fail. And this is where Tableau is really in its sweet spot. And that's analysts, right? There's a lot of analysts today that are using data to drive decisions, to drive organizational change. And analysts in a Tableau sense can create their workbooks. They can create dashboards. They have full authoring capabilities. They can use data sources that have been scrubbed and polished by the producers. So if they're connecting down to really complex star schemas or really complex snowflake schemas, whatever it may be, they can still connect to that, but they can also blend information in Tableau for their own data, their own view of the world. And this is very important. So these analysts feel very empowered with Tableau, and they're typically the first people, these power business users, that find Tableau in an organization and start spreading it. And we definitely see our capabilities as you approach the consumer are much greater than the traditional BI systems. And Tableau makes you very empowered to answer your own questions, to really cater to that Google generation. We no longer have to go out in the street and fight about who sold the most widgets. We can actually hook it to Tableau and figure it out. All right, moving on. This is what the data landscape looks like today for most of these users. It's a dry, barren desert. They're starving to get access to their information. They're getting access to traditional BI tools and building Excel farms on the outside to get access to that information. So they're starving in the data desert. And they want relief. Trust me, they want relief from the traditional model. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what questions they can answer. They really want to start enabling self-service BI, self-service reporting, self-service data consumption. They don't want you to do it for them. They want to do it themselves. And what we found, oddly enough, is the best ideas come from the desperate and newly empowered. And I'm going to tell a little anecdote here. I was just recently in Seattle for our global customer kickoff. And during that, our pre-sales team did a visualization challenge. We called it the VizWiz. And the 4 finalists in this contest out of 130 global pre-sales people with, you know, over 1,000 years of BI experience. The final 4 finalists total had a whopping 7 years of BI experience. They were all graduate hires from university that had no idea what the traditional model was. They've always been empowered to answer their own questions. So to me, that's one of the more interesting things. I've got more BI experience than that entire panel that made the final, and I didn't even make the final. So we really fundamentally believe this. You get this tool in the hands of the right user, and they're going to feel incredibly empowered and do great things. All right, so we're going to have a data focus. And what we want to do is get out of that data desert. We want to give them an oasis of information, an oasis of capabilities. We don't want to let them just die in the desert. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to leave. They're going to make Excel farms. They're going to do whatever they can to do their job better and faster. And with Tableau, we can definitely give end users a refreshing oasis of data and capabilities, right? We give BI to the masses. If you look at the back of my computer, it literally says data to the people. We fundamentally believe that. And we let the masses generate these ideas. We let the masses get these stories and ideas in their head, and they go off and explore them, right? Tableau is a blank canvas for really exploring your data. When I really get to flowing with Tableau, it almost feels like I'm having a conversation with the database. I get a question, I get an answer. I get another question, I get an answer. It wasn't quite the answer I expected. It fires off another series of questions. So this really aligns to how we work and how we think, and we can do it now. So this is very important. We feel very empowered. But there are some organizations, if you let them wander off into the deep end, they might drown, right? They just might be overwhelmed with this whole thing. And it's ironic that the one thing we needed really is the thing that killed us, right? So we got to be careful. We don't want to end up in Excel hell, as they say. So we don't want to let them drown in our new oasis, right? It's really kind of ironic. The one thing we really needed has killed us. And some users can actually be overwhelmed by the experience, the sheer excitement of having access to the data, the sheer open-endedness of the tool itself, right? When you launch Tableau, it's a blank canvas, right? So some structure here can really empower and increase and leverage that self-service BI and increase their survival rate, right? A little bit of structure just can ensure that we have enterprise adoption. We can conform to some of the enterprise governance processes that we have in place now. So I do believe fundamentally for a large enterprise, a little structure is okay. And once we add a little bit of structure to our oasis, man, doesn't that look inviting? Look at that. I got a nice little spot to go rest. I got a nice shallow end. This looks safe and very inviting. And that's what we're trying to get to, this harmony, right? This natural harmony. We want our oasis pool, right? It's in the wild, right? It's a little bit in the wild. It's a little scary for some of us in enterprise IT. But we put some key man-made structures here that are pleasing to design and increase the overall safety. We don't want people to go off and drown. right? It's a little more inviting. Our structures can be as simple as a safety net, simple boundaries, just to prevent drowning. But we can go really deep with this too, with structure. But what level of structure is correct, right? That's going to be balanced for everyone. And the way I always say is, well, how expensive a pool do you want, right? You want us to build it for 4 years, scrap the plans, and go swim in a 2-foot kiddie pool while people are perishing in the desert, right? No, we don't want that. I mean, how many people here have been involved with a failed BI project? Yeah, I'm going to bet most of you have, because it's something like 80% of BI projects fail. So let's get capabilities out now. Let's start working with data now. Let's connect to our information quickly. Let's not worry about building tons and tons of metadata. Let's connect, go, explore, and figure out what this data is telling us. And ultimately, a subtle and inviting harmony really kind of lives in a natural harmony with the resources around us. And thus we reach Tableau Zen, right? So the people that are the best at Tableau are our Tableau Zen masters. And there's a reason for it. All right. So enough positioning. Let's go ahead and move into the main topic here, the meat of the conversation. We've got how we're going to position this. We're going to talk about a customer-focused data strategy. We're going to talk about something very relevant. It's a big data strategy, what to do when data gets big. We're going to talk a little bit about a data publishing governance, a report publishing governance, and finally we'll come to the conclusion. All right, let's move on. So really, it's a big data problem. And what is big data? Well, of course, this is a big data, 72-point font. But what is it really, right? Probably MediumData. For those of you that follow us online, the campaign ran over April 1st, so don't worry about MediumData. It's really about big data. And this is one of my favorite, more modern infographics on big data. And it's something that's very relevant. It's founded out of some marketing materials for IBM, talking about the 3 V's, the volume, variety, and velocity of data. And really, the one thing that really should mean to anyone is volume is only ever bigger and only ever more. From right now to the next second, there will only ever be more data. And storage is cheap. Hardware is cheap. We can store it all. We have massive Hadoop databases. We have massive Leap databases. We have massive parallel processing databases. We can store this data. I have worked with customers that have 100 petabytes of unstructured data. That's unfathomable. I could even fathom what 100 petabytes would have been 10 years ago. That's an amazing amount of data, and that's one customer, right? So we see this big data all the time. And it really is increasing operational efficiency in a lot of organizations, especially in retail. You retailers that are in here, I see a lot of you using big data. I see a lot of you on massive amounts of data. You're using Hadoop and Teradata to do analysis. The airline industry has been fundamentally changed by big data. So these things are definitely driving change, definitely increasing sales, definitely making it smarter. Right? Especially you online retailers, you know everything about it. You harvest all the information you can from web logs. You present us with the most relevant ads at the most relevant time. You know whether or not we're going to be divorced soon. You know whether or not we're going to be buying a new car soon. Your algorithms are amazing. So there's only ever more data, and it's simply amazing the amount of data in there. And some people will call it the oil of the 21st century, is what we hear, is data. So Tableau was the right tool at the right time with the right problem to really help people make sense of all of this data. All right, so where does Tableau fit in all this big data sets? So where do we fit, right? Because Tableau only really makes fundamentally 2 products. So let's talk about that. So we live in this big data world. There's more volume, more data all the time coming at you. There's so many different varieties. And this is really one of the things that make Tableau absolutely amazing, is we're database agnostic. When you open up Tableau desktop and you look at the database vendors we have, there's always more modern vendors, right? We got Splunk in there now. We've got several different flavors of Hadoop in there. We've got Salesforce, Google BigQuery, all these modern data sources, as well as traditional relational sources, SQL Server, Oracle, right? So we can connect our Tableau desktop tool to where your data lies. And we can choose to leverage those investments. And to me, that's also very important. We're not going to tell you, hey, the only way you can use your data is if you go off and replicate it yet again. When we're talking petabytes of data, that's not going to work. That surely won't scale. You've already built those backend systems, let's leverage them. But if your backend system is tired, or if the transaction processing system with our desktop tool, we can extract that data out and run it in memory. So that's a differentiating feature for us. We can optionally extract, or we can choose to connect live if we're tuned for it. And this is really a great feature of Tableau. And then we can create our desktops We can create our dashboards and distribute them. We can distribute things the old-fashioned way, or we can leverage a wonderful product called Tableau Server. So once we make these insights in Tableau Desktop by connecting to our data, we can publish information up to our Tableau server. We have a centralized repository of data sources. We can actually do some efficiency with presentation and cache out over the web. We can use mobile tools to connect to this. We can use Tableau itself to connect up to the server. We can embed inside of portals. We can email things. Once we're on server, we can communicate anywhere information needs to go. And that's what server is all about, is communication. But in the big data sense, we also offer something called our data server. And this to me is something that's a little bit under leveraged in the marketplace, and something I really support a lot is our data server. We support big data with our data server in a couple of different ways. If we are doing the extract model, and our extracts are enormous, I mean, they're quite big, say they're 8, 9, 10 gigabytes, we've got hundreds of millions of rows. The last thing on earth I'd want to do is have a 10 gigabyte extract for 10 different reports. If I can centralize all that into one data source and then connect the 10 different reports to that, I'm doing far less data replication. Another thing we can do with our data server that I think is absolutely fantastic is if I join together a bunch of star schemas, say in Teradata, and I want to publish that up because I don't expect people to know how to join all that together. That maybe I didn't have, you know, human-friendly names. They were machine. Okay, so let's talk about a customer-centric data model. I mean, does that mean that the customer is my center object and my star schema? No, that just means we're going to take a consumable approach to creating data sets for the end user. So we're going to always keep the end user in mind. We want them to have the self-service BI. We want to give them a buffet of data so they can feed themselves. And maybe we can do some example reports, some template reports. Right, so we're always thinking about this from a customer-centric standpoint. And where can central IT or BI come in and be involved as well is big data. Right, let's help them manage these data volumes. I don't expect an end user that's only ever used Excel to understand how to appropriately deploy a structure with Hadoop in it, or appropriately connect down to Teradata. Right, that's going to be some hard IT-centric stuff. So we can help them manage the data volume. We can build up a strategy for when to extract, when to use direct connection. And we can talk about all this stuff. And we can also talk about how we're going to share data. What is the data server going to look like? What does the data governance look like? Is there a wiki or something involved for letting people know what data assets are involved? And we really want to have development/IT collaboration, right? We want to help them. We want to show that you want to help the end user, empower them, give them Tableau server, give them Tableau desktop, and help them create some governance for getting this all done. So let's go ahead and move over and talk about really kind of delivering some structure in a refreshing experience. That's what it's all about. And what we really want to do is unleash your data, right? You've been collecting it anyways. You've been paying millions, sometimes even not more, to get this data collected and move it forward in the value chain. And really, the enterprise data warehouse is more useful with Tableau. You can let people answer their own questions as opposed to go to the report factory, go to the funnel as a change control, right? We can turn your data insights from a drip to a spout to a waterfall, right? Really become a data-led organization. And really, let's be honest here. The end users understand the data better than you, IT, right? It's their data. They've been created for you. So let's acknowledge that. Let's understand that they might know the data better than us and help them solve problems. So focus on your data, right? Create a nice buffet of data that customers really want to consume, right? Let's make it pretty. Let's make it appetizing. Let's have a wiki for defining those data assets. Where do I go to get this information, right? So let's create that kind of stuff for them so they can feel really empowered with Tableau. Okay, so we want to unleash the data to the end user. We want to focus on getting that data out there. And we need to be honest, the enterprise data warehouse that we spent millions of dollars collecting and creating using ETL tools to get information in there, it's more useful with Tableau. Tableau is the tip of the iceberg here, but that's what the end users are seeing. That's how they're navigating the water of the business. And we really want to turn our data insight from being a controlled process to something that's really from a drip of information to a spout of information to an actual waterfall of information. We need to be honest with ourselves. The end users, they really understand this information better than we do, right? It's their data. Their systems are generating it. Their work is generating this information. And so let's focus on that data. Let's unleash it and focus on it. Let's create an appetizing buffet of data that customers will actually want to consume. Let's go ahead and catalog it, right? Let's build a wiki that define those data assets so they can search for information and actually find what information they should be using. And we also need to be honest that end users have their own data sources. They're building it today. They have Microsoft Access, they have Excel, they have other things out there. And some of the best ideas in business really come from these end users, come from the business users themselves. And they can enhance data that's inside of the EDW with the blending features of Tableau and really unleash more power that way. Users also have these custom sources, right? They know they do. So let's just let them use it. And Excel is very prevalent, right? That's their view of the world today. That's how they're getting self-service BI done. So why not give them an enterprise self-service BI platform? Let's migrate these useful sources that we find out that are in the field. Let's find them. Let's identify them. Let's get those into the EDW. Let's get those under a controlled circumstance. Let's get them replicated. And while things are being migrated, we can actually create Tableau data extracts of that useful information and share that with other users and let them learn. So this is an example model of a customer-centric information. I've got two swim lanes in here. I've got a data project swim lane and a report swim lane. And accuracy and supportability increase as we move up the chain. And we've got this ad hoc area, the gray area down there, the wild west. This is the user control. And what we want to have here is like one project or ad hoc area for each team or department. We're going to have data and reports living in the same project. And this is intended for data exploration, data discovery projects. It's not really intended for things to be regularly refreshed. It's owned by the end users. And what we're going to want to do is put like a 6-month time limit or a 3-month time limit on data and reports that live in here. And we want to have those reports move to production, right? Like, how can we make these production reports? Let's get these blessed by the centralized BI unit and assure accuracy. And we can have a centralized BI model. We can have an analytics department. And this department that only, like these projects here, these are things that only BI users can see. And these are intended for reports that are being productionized, right? We're blessing the accuracy of the data. We're making sure that there's an SLA around this stuff. The data and reports here are intended to move to production. On these uncertified data sets, right, they can be awaiting productionized ETL. There's a reason why we could have this uncertified space. And then finally, we can have this certified space, which is, this is the polished end state data sets that have SLAs around timing and accuracy. These are going to be regularly refreshed, be regularly updated. They come from certain known entities. These data sets are ready for business users to hook Tableau to and create and explore. We can also do production. Okay, so we've got our Wild Wild West ad hoc area, and so now the users have found some insights, and they want to move those insights up the pyramid to the certified areas. And centralized BI or the analytics department can have control over these areas, and only BI users can use some of these projects when workbooks or data sources are ready for the production sneeze. We'll go ahead and give them visibility. And data and reports living here are really intended to move to production and production only. Uncertified data sets that are awaiting production, ETL jobs, production accuracy. So we can move these things up to the production swim lanes, the certified space, right? We've got high SLA areas. These are polished end data sets that are intended to make end user decisions on. They've got timing around them. They've got accuracy. We can have some regular ran reports ready for end user consumption. Maybe we migrate some of our existing reports over to these areas. And these data sets are ready to go. Right? This is full-fledged certified data. Let's go ahead and go out there and make some production reports. All right. So let's go ahead and look at a big data strategy, something that's more and more prevalent as time goes on. And holistic analysis of 5 billion rows of data, that's okay, a petabyte worth of data. But the experience isn't going to be the most optimal, right? It may take 60 seconds, 2 minutes to run a query. And it's okay for discovery, but when you move, like create a production app or a production, dashboard set, we might want to think about making more human consumable chunks of data. Looking at aggregation data tiers, in a date sequence, looking at years, then quarters, then months, then weeks, then days, then individual records. Like looking at regions from a geographic standpoint, looking at regions, then the countries that make up that region, and the states that make up that country, right? And have a logical drill path. And we can use these aggregate sets. We can have a dashboard by region, then we select a region, then we go look at a dashboard by country, select the country, right? So this is a guided drill path and guided analytics. And we can also use Tableau with Hadoop. Right? Tableau has been doing Hadoop for 4 years now. We've been having a Cloudera connector for that long. And we can use Cloudera, Impala, we can use Cloudera Hive, same thing, we can use MapR and Hortonworks, right? So we've been connected to Hadoop for a while. And we've also been connected to the large database appliance sectors, right? Like the Natijas. Teradata has been an amazing partner of Tableau for many years. Greenplum, Exadata, you can use the Oracle driver to connect, and Vertica, et cetera. Right, so Tableau's been doing big data for a long time. So Tableau was the right product at the right time in the right marketplace, helping us make sense of all this big data. And when we start to break it down, it's all about making big data smaller, right? Making it digestible, making it so we can consume all that information. And we can look at different aggregation levels on this pyramid, right? We've got our heads up there in the clouds, 30,000-foot view, or the executives live, I only care about it by years, months, quarters. Let me get all the way down in the weeds. And so we can look at the last 4 years of data, or just data by year. And as we move down to the pyramid, right, we start looking at data by month. So we select 2011, then we start looking at all the months of 2011. Then we start looking at these individual weeks of these months. Then we look at these individual days. And as we cross from weeks to days, instead of using maybe the Tableau data engine to serve this information back or aggregate view, let's start looking at transactional information. I want to look at data between these 2 days, so I want to look at these flying records for this day. And so us as database experts, we can build aggregate views, we can build partitions and indexes that support this analysis process. So let's look at a data publishing governance, right? Don't lock it down and power it up with data. And we have an ad hoc area. We went over this earlier. It's like an idea stage, right? That's really for inspiring and allowing exploration. It's really meant for departments, so just within itself can share data, not necessarily blessed for accuracy or completeness. It's going to have a limited shelf life, right? This is a data exploration and generation area, and we can blend sources, right? So we can blend sources for exploring and adding additional value to our data sets. And talk about pre-production, right, or the uncertified space. This is where we bake. This is a bake phase, right? Let's go ahead and get this stuff complete. Let's go ahead and get it accurate. Let's go ahead and kick these data sets out. This will be central, analytical department involvement, typical, maybe even DBAs or data architects to get this stuff over the finish line. We can migrate or improve data for end users, so maybe it's easier for them to consume and make insights. We can develop ETL processes for consistency, so we can have this data regularly refreshed. We can develop end-user friendly data sources and definitions here, right? Let's go ahead and define this stuff and get it out there. And as we move to production, right, this is the full-on consumption fat healthy phase of data sets. Let's go ahead and migrate that data from development environments, QA environments up to production environment hardware. Let's set up data SLAs for confidence in the data. Let's go ahead and create production data sources and publish those to the Tableau data server, and also create wiki pages, assets that end users can consume. So this is one way of doing a kind of a data governance process. Here we've got a BI analyst exploring data sources. They can create data sets. They can publish those to ad hoc data procedures, right? We can publish that data. If not, if it's still going to live in ad hoc, maybe it's going to be discarded after a certain amount of time, or we're going to send some warning out there. And as we move forward, right, we're going to look at the baking phase, right? So we've got, this is a great data set. I want to get it out there to my end users. So let's go ahead and harden it. Let's go ahead and bake it, right? So we're going to go ahead and develop tables and views. We're going to go ahead and create a Tableau data source. We're going to go ahead and sort of publish that to the uncertified space. And really, hey, is this thing ready? Is this thing ready? Is this thing ready? Right, and keep going through the swim lane until it's ready. And then we'll go ahead and unleash it to production. And when they do that, it's going to be the consumption phase. We're going to have some BI leads or somebody create some data dictionaries that get posted to our wiki, so our end user community can connect to that and create workbooks. We're also going to have maybe some development involvement to migrate ETL and data scripts up to production, right? And we're going to go ahead and create a gold standard workbook and publish it out there to the certified space for our end users to use. Same thing, we can do a very similar thing with the publishing governance of reports. We can lock down who can publish, right? So we can keep that idea state, that ad hoc state, explore data, right? And really get insights out there, start making aha moments with our information, right? This is an agile environment and reports are not always finished. This is an idea stage. Again, limited shelf life here. And then in our pre-production, we'll be taking the reports to the next level, right? Verify some accuracy. If I'm going to go ahead and start making some real impactful decisions, I should know that this report is accurate, right? So we can migrate and improve reports for the end users, maybe something slow, so we can ensure that we have, we're following different IT practices to make sure this stuff is fast and falls within the bounds of what we deem acceptable. We can do performance reviews here, and we can ensure long-term data support and accuracy. And then in production, right, these are completed reports. They're all blessed and ready to go. End user shareable. We can have private reports up there. We can have dashboards that are created for embedding in systems that are intended for daily use. Right, we can set up SLAs around our reports. And this is really the production, blessed data. Go ahead, go out there and make decisions. And this is what that swim lane would look like. Very similar to the data source swim lane. We have an idea phase where things are explored, and BI essential. BI kind of helps people get it over the finish line. We have a baking phase where the business user is actually helping and working with us, central IT organization, to get the report certified and ready to go. And then finally, at the end of it, we're going to get maybe some sign-off and create a gold star standard. This one's got a little more process built into it than maybe necessary, but it is one way of looking at it. And so I want you to take all these things and just know that there's no one way of doing things. Right? Let's get data to the hands of the people. Let's let them make reports. Let them get aha moments, and let's help them migrate those aha moments to production and make sure it's performant and fast and compliant. And so I'm going to leave you with this. I'm not dumb. I really just have command of thoroughly useless information. So let's go out there and give our end users useful information. All right, Christine, I'm done.